Today's topic:
Phantom Liberty, and why this is for the gamers.
Now, obviously, Cyberpunk 2077, being a video game, is technically already for the gamers, right? But when you consider the rocky launch of Cyberpunk 2077 and kind of the buggy, glitchy dumpster fire, I can't help but feel like maybe the launch of Cyberpunk 2077 felt rushed, especially when you consider that even on last-gen consoles, it was a buggy mess. Less so for PC gamers and current-gen console gamers, but for people who own the Xbox One and the PS4, Cyberpunk 2077 was a mess. And when you consider the fact that Cyberpunk felt a little bit rushed, whether it was by CD Projekt Red themselves or investors, or probably both, rather than
being for the gamers,
Cyberpunk 2077 felt like it was more for the investors in that sense. I'm not saying that the game was solely released to please Cyberpunk 2077's investors or whatever corporate hand was in play. And of course, money is always an important factor when developing any game, let alone a huge, ambitious game such as Cyberpunk 2077. And obviously, the developers at CD Projekt Red, at CDPR, they're gamers themselves, and they want to make a great, ambitious game. It's not just like, hey, money, that's it. Obviously, they want to realize a world that they have in their mind, and they want to let players roam around in that world and have them experience the stories that world has to tell. They're not just money-grabbing individuals. They're people who want to create something great. I mean, you don't have to look any further than Paweł Sasko, who is a developer. I think he is the lead quest designer of Cyberpunk 2077. He, on his Twitch stream, and he talks to his audience very sincerely on his Twitch streams, he was close to tears when gamers started flooding back to Cyberpunk 2077 after the release of their now very famous and very good Cyberpunk anime Edgerunners.
After the release, I couldn't believe, after some time, of course, I did, but at the beginning, I just couldn't believe. My dear girlfriend, she was like seeing me fucking completely wrecked.
And now with the reveal, with the announcement of Phantom Liberty and everything that has been disclosed up until now in regards to gameplay systems and things of that nature, I can't help but feel like Phantom Liberty is this kind of love letter, or maybe this apology letter from CDPR to the gamers saying, hey man, we had a rough start, it was crazy, but we're sorry, and hey, check this out. And now they're just making this unbelievable expansion pack, which is in line with what CDPR has already done, especially when you consider Blood and Wine for The Witcher 3 and Hearts of Stone for The Witcher 3 as well. Considering what they're including with the Phantom Liberty update, and this ranges from new gameplay systems, the revamped NCPD system, a focus on current-gen consoles, and of course, a new story that is of the spy thriller, flavor, which is just, cool to hear, and something that I definitely want out of a universe like Cyberpunk 2077. When you consider all of these things, I can't help but feel like this might be, or this is really just a soft reboot almost of the entire Cyberpunk game, because players will be messing around with new systems that they haven't seen, old systems that have been changed quite drastically, and they'll be playing around with new characters and a new ending as well. I think there's just a lot to look forward to in Phantom Liberty, and I'm just so excited. You know what I mean? On to the specifics of Phantom Liberty, I first want to talk about the new systems that'll be incorporated and implemented into Cyberpunk. Starting with something that stuck out like a sore thumb, the NCPD system. That system is, right now in Cyberpunk, is very much just police and police drones being spawned in when your wanted level gets high enough, and then if you beeline down Night City into like go down a street and just go, just like you just go straight fast. You go fast enough and you go far enough, the police will despawn. The drones will disappear. It's not very enticing, nor is it very realistic, if you want to use that word. When you consider GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2, which are games that have a similar scope almost to Cyberpunk, or I should say Cyberpunk has a similar scope to those games, I think, the NCPD system could use definitely a whole lot of work, right? So there is that. Just to give you an idea of what this NCPD system might feel like, there is a mod out on PC right now that can let players experience a revamped and just a better NCPD system than what we have currently. This, apparently, according to other people who are covering Phantom Liberty, is already quite similar to what Phantom Liberty will be implementing. So here is that. In addition to the police system getting revamped, some combat systems will be getting revamped as well. I'll talk about skill trees in a bit, but the one thing I want to cover right now is vehicle-to-vehicle combat. This is not getting revamped, because technically it wasn't really in the base game. But what is happening is that they're now including it. So if you're going down the street and you want to do some sort of drive-by shooting for whatever ungodly reason you might have in your head and your heart, you can do that. So yeah, if you want to live your drive-by fantasies to a T, there you go. And you can also do it with cyberware, which is cool. And now, speaking of cyberware, cybernetic cyberware, that system is getting revamped as well. Some of the changes that are happening with cyberware is that, one, cyberware will now much more closely mimic the cyberpsychosis aspect of Cyberpunk 2077's tabletop RPG counterpart. However, it's not a full implementation of cyberpsychosis, rather it's more or less just so there is an amount of cyberware that is tolerable by V. Up until that point, the player will begin incurring penalties to their stamina, health, and other debuffs. Another thing that they'll be doing with cyberware is that cyberware will now be incurring a more aesthetically affecting experience in that the more cyberware you have, the more robot you will look like rather than human, which is kind of already in the game, obviously, just because it is the nature of cyberware, right? But cyberware will now affect the way you look more in Phantom Liberty than you ever did in the base game without the Phantom Liberty update and stuff like that, which I think is cool. I would like to look more like a robot if I had more robot parts than human parts, I guess. So that makes sense. Skill trees will also be getting an upgrade. In particular, pre-existing skill trees will now move further away from percentage-based kind of passive skills to more active skills that you can use as part of your arsenal. And I think that's cool, just because, I think percentage-based passive skills are great, but in moderation. I would like my character, I would like V to be able to use more active skills rather than passive skills, because it feels more tactile, right? That way. It feels like, oh, I've definitely made progress with all this, hey, check it out, I can fucking dash in the air and I can fire shit from my elbow, look at this flamethrower, you know what I mean? And I think that's really cool. I would love to see that. I would love to see the new skill tree that they'll be implementing. And of course, do you remember the Relic skill tree that seemed completely useless and unnecessary in the skill tree menu? The one that is just glitched out and you can't even use it? It is going to be a part of the game, finally, with Phantom Liberty. So the Relic skill tree is essentially like steroids for your steroids. The second, or the latter of the steroids being cyberware, and the former of the steroids being the Relic skill tree. So the Relic skill tree will allow your cyberware to be way more potent than it was before, and that's going to be sick. I would just love my Sandevistan just to slow down time completely to the point where I'll feel like Quicksilver when he did his thing in that X-Men movie, X-Man, I would just love to see that, or if not, my Sandevistan, maybe Berserker. I actually haven't tried the Berserker. I haven't tried any Berserker builds in Cyberpunk. I need to try those. I will try them before Phantom Liberty update drops. And then, if ever, Cyberdeck. I would like to see how that would how the Relic skill tree would affect my net running hacking abilities. That would be sick. Become more like Lucy. Shout out. Some other stuff that'll get revamped and improved upon. One is the loot system. Clothes will be just clothes and nothing more. So if you want armor, you actually have to go around Night City or maybe do some quests and get armor, like proper armor, ballistic vests, things of that nature. Clothes won't give you armor anymore. They'll just be clothes. It'll just be like, oh yeah, I got this sick coat, but that's it. It doesn't give me like 10 armor. It's dog shit actually, but it looks cool. And another thing that they'll be changing in terms of systems will also be their AI system. So AI will be much more responsive to the player's choices in game and what they do. Ideally, that would be the case. And then also, I feel like, I guess, enemy AI will be much better, and that they'll be less of a punching bag for V and actually try to put up a fight. Not that they didn't put up a fight in regular Cyberpunk, but they're pretty easy to go by. I'm just excited to see how the AI will turn out. I think utilizing more of these current-gen consoles' capabilities and then using that as the baseline will certainly help the game in ways that we might not have expected. And speaking of taking more advantage of the current-gen consoles, graphical improvements. Right now, the keen-eyed viewers have seen from Digital Foundry's recent Cyberpunk video, they've seen that current-gen consoles will be receiving ray-traced reflections on top of ray-traced local shadows in Cyberpunk 2077 within their quality modes. Given the nature of Night City and how reflective it can be, considering rainy weather, street puddles, and of course, shiny cars, ray-traced reflections would look sick in Cyberpunk 2077. I love seeing these new technologies being implemented more and more in the current-gen consoles, and I love seeing developers take advantage of these current-gen consoles rather than having to slow down and consider last-gen, because that's honestly a little bit annoying, but it is what it is. I'm excited for it. So on top of ray-traced reflections being added to current-gen consoles, every other platform, PC, I guess, will also be getting improvements to volumetrics in terms of like volumetric clouds, volumetric fog, just to help set the mood and the atmosphere. And I think it'll add to the gameplay as well when you enter corridors and rooms and spaces that are small and lit up, or not lit up, but they're filled up by fog, and the lights start bouncing around the fog, and the light disperses through the fog. Those effects look always nice in a video game, especially for Cyberpunk. That works really well, wherein the city is filled up with CO2 emissions. It's crazy. I'm pretty excited for that. Other graphical improvements that they will be adding is, of course, just other stuff regarding lighting, shadows, level of detail, increased level of detail, and things of that nature. And I just can't wait to see what the Phantom Liberty update will do to Cyberpunk on current-gen consoles and PC, especially PC, because PC, well, they have ray tracing. They have the ray tracing overdrive mode, which looks fucking-tastic. And I just can't wait to see what else they'll be adding to the game outside of that, because that's gonna be fucking sick, dude. In terms of the story, this expansion pack will take place in a district of Night City called Dogtown, and Dogtown is run by this guy. I forget his name. Steve? No. But you'll have to go through Dogtown. The whole point of this expansion pack is that V will be attempting to save the president of the NUSA under the contract of Songbird, who offers V the potential of complete healing from his illness that is Johnny Silverhand in his head. And of course the story will be spy thriller-esque, and I love that. And of course Idris Elba will be making an appearance as an important character known as Solomon Reed, who will be acting as a NUSA sleeper agent, and I'm just excited for that. I think Idris Elba is a great actor, and the fact that now we have Idris Elba and Keanu Reeves in this video game. Fucking sick. 2 A-list celebrities, dude. Shout out S tier, dare I say. And just one more thing that they're going to be adding to Phantom Liberty is a new radio station, in particular called Growl FM, which will be hosted by none other than Sasha Grey, sheesh, and she'll be playing her own character, who's called Ash. This radio station will be including songs made by the player base of Cyberpunk and just people who like the Cyberpunk community and the Cyberpunk universe. So I'm pretty excited for that. I think that's going to be really cool, just new music, because, you know, we couldn't get enough of the already really great radio stations that are in Cyberpunk. And I also couldn't, you know, get enough of that one song. But yeah, I think the radio station is going to be great. Just to sum things up and just to wrap things up here, with old systems being revamped and graphical improvements taking place, as well as a juicy story for the player to chomp down on, there is just so much to look forward to. And the fact that a lot of these new systems and graphical improvements will come to the base game, players who don't buy the DLC or the expansion pack, these players can still enjoy these things. So the fact that you don't have to buy the DLC or the expansion pack kind of makes Phantom Liberty and its update more of a soft reboot for the game in general, which is cool. And I think that really helps drive home the point that, like, yeah, this is for the gamers. Yeah, this is for the gamers out there. Shout out. I feel like this is CD Projekt Red saying, you know, sorry that we had a really shitty launch. I'm sorry that we couldn't, you know, deliver on many of these promises. But hey, I know it took us a while, and we slowly got back up on our feet. But now we're jumping, baby. We are jumping big time. With this update, new systems, cool sounding story to say the least, addition of A-list celebrities, and more music to listen to. That's a minor thing, but I still think it definitely adds to the universe. There's just so much to look forward to. I'm excited for Phantom Liberty, and I really think that this will make a lot of gamers pleased. I could be wrong, in which case, if I am wrong in the future, I'm sorry. But for now, I'm not. I'm just excited. So, looking forward to it. If you guys are excited for Phantom Liberty, let me know why down in the comments below. And if you guys like Cyberpunk right now, tell me what your favorite part about Cyberpunk is. And if you don't like it, or if you're not excited for Phantom Liberty, let me know as well. And if you like the video, hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this. I also stream every Tuesday and Thursday Philippine time. But yeah, that's gonna be that for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you around.